Tuning in to the online broadcast network, AfterBuzz TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AfterBuzz TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows, interviewing celebrities and showrunners, and bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Hey there, Marvel fans! Welcome to AfterBuzz TV for the Jessica Jones After Show. I am so excited that we've been waiting all weekend to talk about this show, and now it is finally time, you guys. I'm your host, Zach Wilson. I'll be here for all of Jessica Jones, aka your host for this show. I totally botched.
Oh, you did it!
I wasn't sure where you were going with that.
I should have said, I'm your host for Jessica Jones, a.k.a. Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Now I can chop out that soundbite and make it sound good.
Yeah, we'll
Let
fix
me
that
introduce
in
my
post.
panel.
That's good for the reel.
Right here next to me, Mark Donica.
The Internet Soapbox, Mark Donica, a.k.a. the Town Drunk. Let's do that. Why not establish that? I'm so excited to be back in this personal hell that is Netflix's Marvel series.
Mark, we are not in hell, unlike Kilgrave.
No,
we
geez.
are very much enjoying ourselves, but, well, let me introduce my panel. And then
Yeah,
I'll
keep
say
going.
my bit.
Great, wonderful.
Emma Fife is joining us.
Hello, that's me, Emma Fife, at Emma Fife, all over the internet. I like to keep it simple. My last name is 60% Fs. People find that a little confusing sometimes.
This show is pretty 60% F's too.
I know, right?
on the show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very appropriate.
Jesse Klein.
Hi everyone, you can find me at Jess Klein1 pretty much everywhere as well. My last name is 0% Fs, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, I don't have any either.
Yeah.
Bunch of S's, I guess. No, well,
Jessica Jones, everybody.
Anyway.
Here we go. We're going to talk about
okay.
names for the next hour.
Yes.
All right.
The conversation you can only have here.
I want to make a statement up top.
Do it.
To everyone listening, everyone that's joining us in the chat roll live. Thank you. First of all, thank you guys for joining us. But I want to make it clear, anyone posting in the YouTube comments, tweeting us, all that, please, 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 spoiler-free zone. Not just for us, but other fans who may be watching along with us or just finding us in the future as they watch. Keep it to anything that has been that we have up to this point. So for this podcast, nothing beyond episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We are just destroying ourselves
this is
by
hell.
pacing this out.
Yes.
To watch, because we want to give you guys our completely true reactions to this
Yes.
show as we go.
It is extremely difficult to do so, however, when literally my entire Twitter and Facebook and Instagram feed are all people just being like, I watched all 13 episodes of Jessica Jones in a day.
And like last year, you guys were so awesome with Daredevil. Like
So
we
good.
were just talking about how amazed we are that in Daredevil, no one spoiled us. The only people who spoiled us were Netflix by showing us the suit. Yeah,
damn
but
feed.
no one spoiled us, which was amazing. So guys, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're super excited to talk about this show.
Now, fuck, let's talk about Jessica Jones.
You can't say that. You
There's
can't say
enough-
that
I
we're
can totally
AfterBuzz.
say that.
can
You know how
say-
many times she said that?
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
I actually feel that overall that word was underutilized in the show in comparison to how often it's used in the Jessica Jones alias comics.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
They were like, we can swear in a comic book. We're gonna say fuck every sentence.
At least 3 times per panel.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, per page sounds right.
Yeah.
But no, actually, there were panels.
And now that you bring it up, nothing seemed out of place in terms of language. Because sometimes when you watch media where people may like curse too much, you're like, this is excessive. Like a Kevin Smith movie or something. But this is all like, this is real. All of this is real and legitimate, and I totally buy into 100% of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the first scene we were watching through Jessica's lens, just people having sex
Yep.
in a alleyway under a bridge.
Literally under a bridge.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I liked her opening quote a lot for New York being the city that never sleeps. It sure sleeps around.
It was really good. Yeah.
This is a excellent way to do modern noir so
Yeah.
far,
Yes.
Yeah.
and it didn't seem out of place.
God.
It just good. Just good. It's good.
I could spend the entire hour talking about the director of photography and how he tells a story just through, like, we're so voyeurs in this world. There's almost zero clean shots. Every shot has a piece of building in it or like the wall in it. Everything feels like Jessica's being watched. Like everything we see, it feels like she is under a microscope. And it's so good at just like helping set the tone for this entire series. Like I feel tense the entire time. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean I was going to do this later, but let's just talk about style now. While we're getting our reactions to the show, because the style in this show is a character of its own. I mean, we say that. I feel like that's a line that critics use like all the time, but it is really cool. You've got these just the setups for scenes. I thought were brilliant in this way that felt like a comic book, but not to the point of like, let's say Ang Lee's Hulk, where it's like, hey, look, it's a comic book on TV. No. It's just like they have this almost like it's sped up I think they shot in a high frame rate, so it feels too clean or like it's moving too fast. But it separates the scenes in this way that makes it feel like the panel
That's
would
what
be
I was
at
gonna
the
say.
top of the page.
Absolutely, it was very reminiscent the way it was shot, like you were saying, Zach, of like broken down panels or pages within a comic book. You had these very clearly defined scenes in a really good way. Not in a like jarring, we're at, Alias at her apartment and then all of a sudden, we're at the hotel or whatever. It was very deliberate transitions that felt very comic book like.
But a lot of the shots are shot like a horror film. There are so many times where they rack focus, where like the focus will be Jessica through the crack of a door. She'll hear someone like rummaging in her apartment, and then it racks focus to just the doorknob. And it's such a creepy, scary move. Or like at the end of episode 1, where it's the hallway, where the front of the hallway is super in focus, and then it becomes blurred, and then the door at the end of the hallway goes to being what's in focus. It feels like they used a lot of like Hitchcock like moves that now every horror film uses, but they really they're doing such a great job of making this feel dangerous.
Yes, and I was going to say, and just to agree with what you were touching on a little earlier, Jesse, like the whole idea that you feel very much like you are in Jessica's world, and that you personally are in danger and being watched.
It's that the voyeuristic photography is. You can't help but feel creeped out. You said tense before, but especially once they establish how Kilgrave feels. Not even necessarily like the visual cues with the purple coming in and him like phasing in and out of everything is awesome and cool and real stylistic. But it looks cool, but then you see how it, especially when the one with the lick, like that, just like no,
that will haunt your dreams forever.
It was so uncomfortable.
But really quick, imagine people watching Jessica Jones first and then going, "Oh, what else has David Tennant been in?" And going back and watching Doctor Who, going, "I can't like this guy at all. I don't see it. He's just gonna lick somebody at some point."
The one thing I will say is that I did have people tweeting at me or texting me saying it will cure you of any love you ever had for David Tennant. And I was like, that's good because he's married. I don't think it's going to work out for us.
Yeah, I mean, the casting of David Tennant in this role was, I think, just one of the most perfect casting. As soon as I heard it,
Luke Cage,
it was something I never would have picked out necessarily. Like if you're like, who should we cast as Kilgrave? I wouldn't think, David Tennant. But for this character whose power is his influence and his just ability to take over other people, to pick someone who especially nerds know is one of the most charismatic actors working. David Tennant just has a way of carrying. I've watched him on Doctor Who, obviously, but I also watched him because I covered here Grace Point last year.
Did you watch the original one too?
I didn't, because we were trying to stay like.
Oh, okay.
Keep the murder mystery clean, since they basically just did the same thing. But he has this range, but he never loses that that ability to draw you in.
Yeah,
he
not at
draws
all.
in people around him.
I mean, we only really see one scene with him, but it's so good. The part where he goes in, he's like, "You want to invite me in?" And like the guy's like, "I want to invite you in," and it's like, "You're delighted to have me."
And we still don't see him.
No, you
Yeah.
still
He's like,
haven't
it's like a
actually seen
monster
his face.
movie.
Yep.
You don't see the
It's-
monster.
It's over the shoulder, like
Yeah.
it's all this, like just telling the kids to go in the closet. Like they did a really good job of like showing off his power without making it super like blatant and like I'm in your brain now.
It's like
Yes.
Mind Taker.
No, you just see the very subtle shifts in people's
Yeah.
attitudes when he suggests that they should behave a certain way, and
Yeah.
that is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the direction of those actors is also just spot on because
Oh, yeah.
if you notice, each person that does what he tells them to do
Yeah.
has a brief pause that they could have easily just cut out, and they like the cartoonish comic book version
Yeah.
is like, oh, he just like thinks it and they go do it, but the person hears the command, thinks, no, I don't want to, and then
Yes, I
oh
do
no,
want
I
to.
do. I'm gonna just go do that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Kilgrave's powers. It's not like he possesses your brain and then makes you do something. You're like, no, I don't want to do it.
No.
He makes you want to do things that no matter what you want to do. Like, it's until after you're like, oh, that wasn't something that I would think of doing. Like, why did I do that?
Yes.
At the time, and you're present, you can feel yourself wanting to do it. So he makes you into this monster. When with Hope, by the way, naming a character Hope, she's doomed. Like, you never name a kid Hope. Like you've doomed your, it's pathos. But like with Hope, like she's there. You can see her at first not like her fighting it, but then she like when Jess tries to pick her up off the bed, she just fights so hard to get back on that bed. Like it's the thing that she wants to do more than anything in the world.
Well, because that's the thing is that what is so powerful about the Purple Man's what he can do.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to say powerful power.
Yeah.
But what he can do is that he doesn't just like make you control you like a telepath.
No.
And like, oh, I'm gonna like make you pick up that knife.
No.
It's he makes you want to pick up
it,
that
yeah.
knife. And that's the thing that they haven't really gone into as deeply yet, but they've sort of just like hinted at and touched on.
Yes,
Yeah.
and again, this goes back to the brilliant casting of David Tennant, because like if David Tennant were telling me to do things, I would probably do them.
I mean, even just in general, he looks like a nice enough
He
guy.
does, yeah.
Until he starts to furrow his brow a little bit, and you go, "Wait a minute, what did you ask me to do?"
And he's got a good accent.
Yeah.
Like you just want to do it.
I totally freaked out, by the way, when Hope's parents, when Jessica was like, who referred me?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he was this nice gentleman. He was British. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
No,
It could have been anybody. Who was it? I didn't get it until later, but
It was probably Paul McCartney, right?
yeah, it sounds right.
Paul McCartney is well known to hang out in Omaha, so.
Jessica Jones, private investigator.
I did
Hold my
love
hand.
just tying this back to Jessica and the way that Kristen Ritter and the writing and the
she's so
direction
good.
handled this whole storyline.
Yeah.
Because what they're basically giving us is a rape story.
Yeah. Well, that's what the Purple Man's power is. He has super rape. Like that's it. Like it's what he does. Like that's his superpower.
Good night, everybody. I mean, kind of nailed it. There we go.
But I mean, especially if you compare it to date rape, like
Yeah.
date rape drugs, like Rohypnol and things like that. That is what we're dealing with here. Is somebody
On a crazy
on
level.
but that's what superhero shows do, and that's what this is superhero content at its finest.
Yeah.
Because it's showing you a real world problem, something
Yeah.
that people struggle with. What is then basically
Making
the
it
story
huge.
is
That is
what
true.
is the multiplied version of that with supernatural elements tied into it.
Yeah.
It's a man who can, without any other things, just make you do whatever
Whatever
he
he
wants.
wants. Yeah.
And it's scary. And the reason I bring that up is that I think that the way that they showed her PTSD with it is brilliant, subtle, and just it makes me uncomfortable to watch. Like,
Yeah.
in the room, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm
Well-
scared because like I imagine that's what I can't speak from experience, and I won't pretend to, but
Yeah.
I imagine that's what it's like.
Well, and
to those flashes.
Kristen Ritter is so good because like we've seen her in other things, and she's so good at being like this snarky, strong woman. And then those moments where she has those flashes of just real vulnerability, and it's just to herself. Again, it's just to herself.
Yes.
But we're there, there's something in the camera, like we're there to see it. And she's so good at bringing us into that fear and that just regret. You can tell she regret, like whoever that girl is that is in her bathroom that she had like the picture of.
Oh yeah.
And then
in Luke's bathroom.
In Luke's bathroom.
Yeah. Was it in Luke's bathroom? In Luke's bathroom.
That was post-sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what made her leave.
Yes.
That post-coitus picture, but then she has the picture, like apparently she's connected to her because that's the same girl
bus accident.
Yeah, that
in
was
the bus accident. So like whoever that is, like you can see how much that like affects her.
Yep.
Like it's I don't know what's going on there, but like it's like so powerful how Kristen can portray that.
Yeah, and I think again, this is just talking to, because part of the appeal, I think, of the character of Jessica Jones is overall, like, she is very much in Kristen Ritter's wheelhouse in many ways. She embodies that like kind of snarky and sarcastic and definitely kind of sassy sort of character, but the way with Jessica Jones, she's doing it because she's very guarded, obviously, and she is protecting that inner vulnerability that we do see time and time again throughout the show. And again, it's just, you really feel like you are part of Jessica's world, and it's very clear, both in the way that you know they have filmed it and in the way that Kristen portrays it, that those are very inner moments for her that she is trying to hide from everybody else. Like I when I talk like specifically the scene where she's on the subway and she smashes the window, that to me was just such an interesting portrayal of, and again, I also can't speak from experience, but what I imagine going through that PTSD must be like, that you know, so much of it really is just your inner turmoil that people can't see, and when you let it out, you just look crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's for Jessica Jones as a character, like a lot of people in a similar situation, I think, would have that same knee jerk, like something sets them off and they just like swing their arm back, but they just hit metal and no one notices. But for Jessica Jones with powers, she breaks stuff.
And speaking on that, with her what she brings emotionally, one of my favorite payoffs in these two episodes was the flashes that we would get of Trish on the billboards and everything, and we would go, what's their relationship like? What's that like? And then the payoff of the scene where she just shows up and he's like, okay, everybody see you tomorrow. And that subsequent scene, everybody's been through I'm in trouble, but I don't want to say I'm in trouble. I need your help. Nobody wants to say that they need help. And that just subtlety was excellent. Just beyond excellent.
And to see Jessica that scared.
Like, I gotta get the F out.
As soon as she realized she was like trying to go to Tokyo, like she was trying to get out of like
I think it was Hong Kong.
Yeah, Hong Kong.
She was trying to get away so quickly. Like and I really appreciated that. Because whenever I watch like a horror film or anything, I'm like, just go,
just leave,
just leave. Like, and it follows. It's like, just move to Australia. It will walk slowly under the ocean to Australia.
If Jaws 4 tells us anything, it'll follow you. It'll find you.
That's
no
true.
matter what.
It's at a walking pace, though.
That is what, you're right. Sharks can swim. I totally apologize.
That's true.
Wrong on my part.
But yeah, like just seeing that fear, but also making this not feel like a torture porn or anything like that. Because at the end of episode 1, Jessica has that decision where she's got that cab, which I assume that they called to go to the airport because there's no way a cab came that quickly. And she has that moment where it's like she could run away. She could still be a victim in this. And instead, she turns around and decides to become a hero. Maybe not in her eyes, but if she's trying to do something right, then she's doing something heroic. She's putting herself on the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I just like the way that, because as you say, you know, it's not a torture porn, and though she is very much a victim, we see her choosing to not be the victim as much as she possibly can, you know. And we see that with Jessica. I also feel like we're seeing that with Hope a little bit, you know, that she, you know, obviously she's been through some shit, and she kind of murdered her parents, so it wasn't really her per se, but again, in the scenes that we see her subsequently where, Jessica is interrogating her and, she's getting the lawyer to represent her, Hope's not just like a shriveling little victim.
No.
She is trying to also believe that she was made to do these things and she was not in control.
She's trying to find her power.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
And especially the scene where Carrie Moss's character named totally slips on
Jerry.
me.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jerry.
When-
Gender swap.
Yes.
Happy Hogarth.
when she comes in and goes, they have the scene and Hope essentially goes, "We're not the only ones."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where you see a first turn in her where she's like, okay, maybe I can open back up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do always like how she's away, like she's always just not there and reserved.
Yeah.
Let's dig into Hope's storyline because
God.
it's tragic, but that's how we get kicked off in this
Yeah.
world is with
In the ass.
We see the power. It's such a great, without ever meeting the character, we immediately know everything we pretty much need to know about Kilgrave.
About Kilgrave.
yeah.
Like, it's so good at showing off who this character is that he would know, number one, that he is smart and manipulative enough to know that Jessica will bring these two together and that there will be a moment where she can kill both her parents and will tell her to kill both of her parents and then tell her to smile and then come back to reality. Like,
That scene, dude.
it was so creepy.
I was at my computer like for like 5 minutes until the credits started rolling. I was just like, what the hell, dude?
And I was like, "Oh, are we gonna get a happy ending?" I was like, okay, I guess they're not
seems-
going.
yeah.
I guess they're not going as dark as they could with Purple Man. That's fine. Like maybe we'll get some darkness.
You
but-
start
I was
out,
gonna say-
yeah, 'cause
Fuck you!
I was thinking we'll start out like a lighter thing to make
That's-
it worse later.
That was what I thought too, Zach, going into it. Was like, I thought, okay, maybe we're gonna get away this time, and in the next episode we're gonna meet whatever the real
God.
the real like victim who doesn't get away is. Nope.
Like she was going to be the Karen of this one, where
yeah.
bad stuff happens to her, but it's not.
She comes out on top.
She's going to get some redemption.
She gets to be Jessica Jones's intern.
Yeah, exactly. Like she'll be like Jessica Jones's friend. It's like no.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, just the performance of the actress that played Hope. I'd have to pull up her name. But just that moment
really
when
good.
she's standing there, like just void.
Aaron Moriarty.
Well, just the click of the unloaded gun that she keeps pulling the trigger, and the transition into like from that as she stops, drops it, and then collapses.
It's
Every award.
It's when she screams for her mom. Like that is like a visceral, like human feeling that you get where you're like, I just need to hug this girl. Like you're like, oh my god, we need to help this person.
Hashtag Kilgrave is a dick.
Yeah. Dick is a real nice.
That's an
Oh
understatement.
no, that came from the. I see. It came from the chat room.
Oh, nice.
Also, hashtag
Still an understatement.
creepy face lick is also a
I had an idea for a sign off.
It's really. It's just painful to watch.
It is.
And then the further we get with Hope's storyline, with when Jessica's visiting her in episode 2, a line that just stood out to me was, I mean, for obvious reasons, you should kill yourself.
Yes.
Do you think that was, because there's two ways to interpret it. Do you think that was Hope thinking that that's the only way out, the only way to escape him, and telling Jessica, like, I can't because I'm in here and they won't let me kill myself.
Right.
But you should because that's the only way to get away. Or do you think that was Kilgrave speaking through her as like a one more hanging on, if you are here, say this?
I feel like it was not Kilgrave. I feel
agree.
like it was Hope, because I feel like Kilgrave isn't done with Jessica yet. He's not ready for her to just kill herself and be dead.
It was a warning.
Yeah.
I think it was Hope as well. I think that was Hope dealing with the fact with how hopeless she thought the situation was.
Gonna get him a lot this season. Get him just go through them.
How hopeless she felt the situation was, and that the fact that Jessica is saying that I'm gonna fight him. It's like, you might as well just kill yourself. And I mean, to be fair, Jessica is a super, like, to put a superhero in that, or like someone with super strength, to risk getting mind controlled, like Kilgrave immediately gets a power upgrade as soon as he has someone with super strength. Like, now he can do things that he wasn't able to do before.
Right.
And the reasons behind that, I want to hold up. We're going to talk about the comic book towards the end of the of this podcast. We will, absolutely. I know
it's a big departure. But
it's a bit. It is and it isn't. Like that's the interesting thing, and we'll get into that. So I just wanted to let people know, if you do want to hear about that, we'll be talking about it later. But I think it was. I think it was Kilgrave because, to me, I don't think he thinks that she would kill herself from her saying, but that's just one more emotional blow to this woman, to have this person who if she's back with Hope, she's clearly trying to help her, and I think Kilgrave
did they establish a time limit on Kilgrave's power?
Well, this is the interesting thing, is that the show has not yet given us rules for Kilgrave's power.
Okay.
I thought Jess did say it takes time. And
it takes time, but if you have to get farther away.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think the farther away and the longer away you are, the easier than the shorter it is to get.
Yeah, because let's dig into Kilgrave's powers while we're talking about him. So what we know so far, he can basically give you desires, and through that make you do whatever he wants. They are strong enough to where even after he has left, you will refuse. Like, Hope refuses to leave the bed.
Well, and based
for
on
6 hours.
on the conversation they had with the surgeon, he can also continue to give you suggestions even when he is sleeping.
Yes, sleeping, but not under medical anesthesia.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting distinction. It makes sense because you don't dream the same when you're under anesthesia. So I guess that the mind is more asleep when it's medical. We don't know yet how this version of Kilgrave works his powers, though. Is it that there is... Because, I mean, what do you guys think? It could be a pheromone thing, which is sort of how it is in the book. It's a pheromone that, like, I guess the time thing could be that it's still in your system.
Well, they did a revamp of his power in Thunderbolts, where it wasn't just pheromones, it was a viral thing.
Oh,
where like he's constantly releasing a virus. I think it was like in the Power Man Thunderbolts revamp, they did a thing where it was like a virus.
How long ago was that?
That was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay. That's possible.
And so it was like it took that long for your body to kind of clear itself of his whatever that virus is.
And I feel like based on some things that have been said in the show so far, that could totally make sense because of the whole, it takes time and it takes distance. The distance thing being the only thing to me that would suggest it's still a pheromone thing.
Yeah.
And also, I did like I mentioned, Hope looking off to the side. He could be looking at where Kilgrave is.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I'm over here. Don't forget me. And just while that could be distance, it could also be, he's right there.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. I want to put this out there to just a reminder to anyone who may have joined us late in the podcast. We are recapping episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Any discussion of anything beyond 1 and 2. Please hold off until we get to those episodes on this podcast. We'll be doing 3 and 4 later this week, and then more so next week.
Thank goodness.
Just a friendly reminder to you guys. I'm gonna let the chat roll go for a little bit.
I also just saw something for a different show, which was like, come on. I'm happy to watch it.
You guys,
but we appreciate it, guys. Now let's so.
Can we talk about Luke Cage?
Please, can we?
Because this again is like one of those moments where, like, if you're a person who loves comic books, seeing Power Man in the real world,
and not just Power Man, but the bottle, just
the bottle into the neck.
That was amazing.
He's wearing the yellow shirt. Like, if we don't get a Sweet Christmas, I'm going to have such a fit. If we don't get a Sweet Christmas,
I'm going to be in such a tizzy.
Do you think
I will write one heck of a letter to Netflix?
Such a letter.
Do you think they might be saving that for Luke's own series, though?
No, we need a Sweet Christmas.
That's got to be 11 to 13.
Here was the interesting interesting thing though.
The one
with,
interesting thing about
well, no. Like
Everything.
Well,
The casting was perfect. Oh my god, he's Luke Cage.
Or
He's
Michael.
fantastic. Yeah.
the casting all around in this was superb.
Yeah.
Such
I mean,
agree.
we already talked about David Tennant, Kristen Ritter.
Knocking it out of the park.
But yeah, before we dive into Luke Cage at length, because
Yeah.
I haven't brought him up because I wanted to devote enough time to him.
Okay, sorry.
But
I'm just excited.
just on casting.
Yeah.
Kristen Ritter. What did you get when you first heard the the announcement?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, I again thought this is her wheelhouse. Like, she basically has played kind of dour, sarcastic, darker characters in most of the stuff we've seen her in. So I thought it was really good casting. I thought she was a little young for who Jessica Jones is, but it's Hollywood, folks, so it's gonna be younger.
They made everybody younger.
And I was mostly worried about like how it would look seen. We haven't really seen her use her super strength except on doors and lockers
And the
car.
and the car
And a whole fight.
and that fight. But like we haven't really seen like a huge example of it. I was worried about how it would look seeing her use super strength because she's a little whisper of a woman. But like after seeing it, I believe it. It's like, yeah, she's got super chemical strength. Like, yeah.
Sorry, Emma.
No, I was just gonna say I've always loved Kristen Ritter, and I really was excited to see her take on this role because I very much was of the mindset that again it's totally in her wheelhouse, and I think that it's giving her a really good opportunity to show the level of depth to which she can take kind of the character she always plays.
Yeah.
Both totally took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly how I described it too.
I was admittedly I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen because the last thing that I remember seeing her in at all was the Bee.
Yeah,
in
Don't Trust the Bee in
Don't
Apartment
Trust the
23.
Bee.
Which is an amazing series.
Yeah, I
You
love
guys should
that
watch
show.
It's so funny.
We had an after show for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the question for me was sort of abated by as soon as I remembered. Oh, but Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah, she was great on Breaking
and I'm
Bad.
like the performance that she gave on that show was so lights out that I'm like,
Yeah.
of course I trust her with Jessica Jones. Just have fun. So I think she was perfect. Like Luke Cage.
So good. Like, that's Luke Cage.
Mike Coulter is
like, again, it's like
brilliant.
It's like when you first saw Iron Man and you were like, oh, Robert Downey Jr. is Tony Stark.
Yeah.
It was like he's now like the character of Power Man has been around forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he's been a very specific thing, and now it's like I can't think of Power Man now without thinking about Coulter. Like, just like I can't think about Iron Man without Robert Downey Jr. Like, he's so good as it, and we've barely seen him, but like just when he takes the saw and puts it against his skin,
Yep.
I was in my room and I just went like, I
Visceral, guttural.
was so excited.
Perfect.
We can talk more about the other cast later. I think Jesse's gonna explode
If we don't just
if we
dive
don't
right into it.
Get into Luke Cage.
I think he just Luke Coulter. I did it again. Mike Coulter.
Coulter. Yeah.
See, that's the thing is it's going to happen.
Yeah.
He just became a huge part of the Halo franchise. It's
Yeah,
essentially
he
the
did.
big second major character, and it's his. Face capture, but not his voice capture in the new game.
Okay.
And the subsequent series is him and his voice. But now, like I went, I'm just gonna see Agent Locke. But now, when I go back and play Halo, all I'm gonna see is Luke Cage.
Luke Cage,
'Cause
yeah.
it's too good. And
Oh my god, that is him.
Yeah.
I didn't even connect
Yeah,
those
that's him.
dots, and I've been playing it all weekend. I'm like, I can't watch more Jessica Jones. I can't watch more Jessica
And
Jones.
now it's just like in the back of your mind.
Always. I mean,
so
when
good.
they originally announced it, I'll admit,
Yeah.
I was like, aw, I really wanted Terry Crews to get that part. Which, like, is the more ridiculous version, and
Yeah.
that's sort of like...
That's like classic Heroes for Hire.
Yeah,
like
that's the
Afro
thing is
chain
Terry
belt.
Crews wearing they're talking about in the chat, but like the crown and the chain belt.
Oh, gotta.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Spiderworks says Luke Cage needs a chain belt.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least like a belt buckle with like a couple of
Right,
things on
right.
it.
And this
modernize
Luke
it.
Cage doesn't have any hair.
Yeah,
He has
true.
no hair at all.
But that's like modern Luke Cage. He
Yeah.
looks like
Modern Luke Cage.
Yeah, Luke Cage, not Power Man.
Yeah, Luke Cage now, like Mighty Avengers Luke Cage Cage is just a dude in a yellow shirt and jeans fighting super vampires. Like that's part of the thing that makes his character very interesting, is that he's unbreakable, but he's so human at the same time, and that's I mean, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about. I didn't even like emotionally react to the fact that he's got a series until I saw this, and I was like, oh my god, we're watching Jessica Jones, then we're watching Luke Cage. Like, I'm so excited.
And I mean, what was great about the way that this series is handling it is because you easily could have done the Marvel Phase 1 style thing where like, okay, we're doing Iron Man, and then we're doing Thor, and we're doing Captain America, and they will have the tiniest little hint that they tie together.
Yes.
No. It's like, okay, Jessica Jones, we're just going to give you Luke Cage in there.
Yeah,
right there.
Just right off the bat, episode 1, there he is. He owns a bar.
He's banging wives.
But he's not okay with the drama.
No.
That's what's so interesting about the way that they're doing this character, is that he's hardened to no level, to
right?
The nth degree. But that
was a good pun.
Yeah, I liked it.
But he comes off as a softie.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Underneath, like he just wants to. Yeah, he just wants to be left alone.
Yes.
He just wants to live and
wants to run
have
a
his bar.
run this sweet bar that he cares. There's something like when Jessica breaks down. Like, she does her detecting. I like seeing Jessica Jones as a good detective. I think that's the right way to push it. Yeah. She's a really good detective. And when she breaks down, like, someone can vomit or piss on you and you don't do anything. But if someone scratches or, like, breaks something in the bar, you get really upset.
Yeah.
Like, there's something about this bar. Like, I feel like we're going to learn about, like, why this bar is so important to Luke. Because
I think we're seeing so much of Luke. Well, I mean, again, it's just the first 2 episodes, but I think we're going to see so much of Luke in this series because maybe his is a prequel series.
I like that idea.
That could be interesting.
We also
watch that.
We also don't know exactly what the timeline is in this series. We can assume
we haven't seen it sync up like we did with Daredevil.
Yeah,
yes.
like we can assume it's post Avengers, just because when she lifts that guy's car, he's like,
he's aware of what the Avengers are.
Yeah.
That's let's just talk about that, and also something else, just the superheroes within this world, within the world of Jessica Jones and Netflix. I think this has to be post Daredevil.
That was my feeling as well.
For multiple reasons. One, because I don't think Netflix would, for the more casual fans, want to put that out of order because it would be overly confusing.
Right.
A prequel is another thing, but they'd have to do it in a very distinctive way.
Yeah.
I was thinking they might have referenced Wilson Fisk just in a very sideways way when they're talking about the guy who owns all the gentlemen's clubs, and they're like, there's someone who, my client is someone who's interested in buying all of that property.
And there was also the Russian car place.
And the Russian car place as well. Like, we've gone to places like that we see in Daredevil, and I thought maybe that was like a very subtle, just a reminder that Hell's Kitchen is being bought up and gentrified by these big companies.
It looked cleaner.
It looked a lot cleaner.
It did.
It was a lot safer.
Arguably.
Though I will say that one of the things I'm enjoying about Jessica Jones and that I also liked about Daredevil was it feels like it actually takes place in New York. Like, I feel like a lot of series that claim to take place in New York feel like they take place inside of a soundstage, because they do. But that's that's not the case. That's not the case with the show at all. Like,
it doesn't feel like Toronto.
No,
But just like the you're one of them reaction.
Yeah.
That sings of Daredevil to me.
Yeah.
Because Daredevil is this scary figure where like Captain America is not coming after you to serve you summons, but like you don't know what the devil's up to.
Yeah.
Like,
the devil of Hell's Kitchen?
Yeah.
You don't know.
Like, he might just swing in and mess you up because you looked at him wrong.
How would he know if you looked at him wrong?
He'd just be able to sense
they don't know that.
Yeah, that's true.
He'd see a terrible look on fire. Is what it would be.
But that is, I assume, why this is. Well, this is where it gets interesting because Jessica's stalking Luke.
Yes.
At this point, right?
And we don't know why.
I mean, I assume by the end of episode 2 that it was because he was another powered person.
I thought it was because of the girl.
Yeah,
in the bus accident.
The girl in the bus accident. I think because she says like, and then there's some cases that you just can't drop. And like as a reference to when she goes and gets that file with like the pictures of the girl, I think there's got to be something where like both she and that girl were being controlled by Purple Man at the same time for like a long period of time or something like that. Like they were both kind of like his concubines or whatever, and like she knows that girl, like either that's like Luke's sister or like something like that, and that's why she's been kind of stalking him.
Interesting. That's a way better theory than just he has powers.
Yeah.
Mine sounds
because I don't think she knew he had powers. Like that's why when he goes and puts the saw on his skin, he's like she like reacts like a human.
Well, now I'm trying to remember the sequence of events of when the woman who he was unwittingly having an affair with confronted her about the fact that like her husband and his rugby team were going to go beat the shit out of Luke at his bar. And then, I can't remember if it was before or after that she discovered the thing about the woman on the bus. Because I agree with you that I think that is definitely part of why she's now basically stalking Luke Cage.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, number one, in the comics, Luke Cage and Jess get married, have a baby. It's kind of a bummer.
Spoiler.
It's kind of a bummer. It's kind of a bummer for Jessica Jones in the comics because she goes from being this really interesting three-dimensional character to just being kind of the Avengers mom. And is like in the background in a lot of comic books.
I think they sort of Marvel like lent off the Max line.
Yeah.
Again, we'll get into the comics in just a few minutes here.
But I think the interesting thing is like immediately there's chemistry. And immediately I like Jessica's thing. She's like, I don't flirt. I just say what I want. And he's like, what do you want? Hard cut to them.
Boning. It's just like.
Yeah.
Oh, and that line while they were going at it, like, you won't break me.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
And you're like,
superpowered sex.
Whoa!
Like, knowing who each of you are, that's fine. Outside of that context, that's a real messed up thing to say, Luke. I'm like, you got a lot of confidence, man. I'll give you that. But
confidence a word for it.
His name is Power Man.
Please don't furrow your brow when you say that. His name
is Power Man.
Or make it ASMR now.
He said, I will. It's like,
whoa!
Dang, dude.
It's like,
I need to stand for a minute. Excuse me.
And she doesn't know that he has superpowers.
No,
he doesn't
know that she has superpowers.
Yeah.
But
neither of them know.
Yeah.
I guess.
She knows.
That might have been the first inclination of it.
Now they both by
know.
the end of episode 2, they both are aware that the other has powers.
What a great ending to episode 2, where it's like she's like about to say, she's like inhaling, and then it's like boom, credits. You're like,
and like everyone else is like, oh, that's great. I'll just like click on the next episode. And us, we are like, okay, I'm gonna go do this show.
What's the name after show?
Okay, I'm gonna do this show, and then I'm gonna do this other show. That I have
I'm
to do,
literally
and then I'm
queuing it
gonna
up
run
on my
away.
phone so that when we're done.
as soon as you exit the studio, you can start watching it.
With the powers thing, one person in the chat room, I'm sorry I lost your post, but there, Jesse, you and I can talk about this at length. Like, do you think it's related to the Inhumans? Because he says one of them, and where, depending on timing, where this lines up with Shield,
the general audience, or like the general public knows about Inhumans.
well, the general public within Shield,
yes,
knows now that there is a powered person problem going on, and that the government is dealing with it. It's a question of can we do both? Can we? I'm sorry, I got.
Can we live in both places?
Yeah.
Right.
Can both of these coexist?
Yeah.
And I think Daredevil and Jessica Jones live in the same world that the Avengers do. I think it's fine, and I think and that's the same world that now the comic books are in, and that's the same world that the TV show. Somehow Marvel right now, it's a tower that hopefully never collapses, but right now they've built a tower where they've got this 4-pronged attack. The Marvel comic book world is now the Marvel movie world, is now the Marvel TV world, is now the Marvel Netflix world.
And the Marvel game world.
It's what
Everything.
Yeah.
it's what has been so phenomenal about the MCU
Yeah.
is that as opposed to like the DCEU, and I don't know what they call the TV universe for DC if they have
Boring.
it.
Earth 2. Oh,
No.
sick burn.
I'm quite enjoying the Flash, but. It doesn't have that, like, now there's there's going to be 2 Flashes running around and not, but there's at least 2, I think, on that show right now, but then there's this other one in the movie universe, so I don't even know what's happening there.
And
but
like Supergirl, like, it's like you gotta have Superman and Supergirl. Like they keep on like referencing.
But we're not here to talk about that.
No.
But
Which you can watch on
absolutely-
AfterBuzz TV at the conclusion of this episode.
But it absolutely does all tie in. But the I guess we maybe we'll get some clarification soon. Is are the Inhumans in play inside this time? Where are we in? MCU.
We haven't gotten that established.
timeline.
We haven't gotten that establishment yet. Once we do, I figure it'll be a lot clearer. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Coulson roll up on these guys.
No,
but,
probably not.
Yeah.
No, he would be so out of place.
He would.
in any Netflix series.
But
into the show.
I know that his Clark Gregg's favorite character is Daredevil, so it's kind of sad that he'll never be able to go, I want to talk to you about the Avenger.
Here's the thing, just on that. I feel like in Daredevil season 2, you could get a Coulson like cameo.
Yeah.
He would have to
like,
come in
sup.
and they would have to handle it very differently.
Yes.
I think it would be fine for Daredevil.
Right.
It might be strange for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans who have not watched Daredevil come over because the tones are so different.
Yes.
But I think that what Coulson has could carry into Daredevil because especially with Foggy, they have a sort of light. They do have that lighter tone.
No, it's true. There's a lot more moments of almost comedy in Daredevil than there are in Jessica Jones.
By the way, every time they said public attorney and they're like, we could get you another
I
attorney, I was
man.
like, are we gonna get a Foggy?
No, that's
Call
when,
it Murdoch.
when Jerry wouldn't take the case. I was like, well, then I'll find somebody who is.
know.
Cut to the door and just open like, please.
I was really hoping we were gonna get Foggy.
Guys, Carrie Moss is putting on a clinic. She might be in a cast full of amazing actors. She might be the best actor in this entire cast, which is insane. And her character is connected in the Marvel universe. It's Iron Fist's lawyer is Hogarth, and it's a guy. But I like who
cares?
Sure, give us,
it doesn't matter.
And give us like
You
this
got
kind of
Trinity.
Yeah.
Just roll with
Exactly.
it.
give us this kind of like complicated like. It's always like the man lawyer who's like, I'm not paying attention to my wife and I'm sleeping with my secretary. What an interesting kind of dynamic change
To have it be a woman.
by making it a woman relationship, because I feel like it for me. I was like, oh, I did not see this coming. I did not see this coming twice, because I was like, oh, maybe she's married to a guy and like maybe
She's
it's
trying-
like. But it's like, no, she's like, it's amazing. Also, we get Calamity Jane, which I was so excited about.
I
playing the
loved
wife.
how they made this just be the storyline. It wasn't
Yes!
like, oh, but it's
No!
happening and it's a woman. Like, it
No!
was just the same thing that we see.
Your wife's calling
It
you.
was
Yeah.
so fantastic.
Your wife knows.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yep.
Yeah.
They never ever addressed the fact that this entire scenario was happening between a whole bunch of women, and I loved it. It
Yeah.
just
Just
was
was.
the way it was.
Just was.
Yeah,
That's the world.
I mean, you want to talk about Bechdel test?
Yeah.
Jessica Jones just
Crushes it.
literally breaks it like a door.
Rips off a phone handle, whips him with it,
God,
throws
can-
it out the
Yeah.
door.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much to get to. The guy with the kidneys.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
Kill me. That was like, you were like, yes, Kilgrave, no, please just kill
Oh
me,
my god,
please.
that was so upsetting. to
You
me.
upset him.
It
No,
hurt.
no.
Like that thing where
then
she
the-
was like, I prayed to God to bring me my
Oh,
son back.
The mom
And
was so creepy.
She was so creepy. Like, I feel like this is going to be a theme for the show. and about how everyone manipulates each other, whether or not it's Kilgrave, who is literally using a superpower to do it, but Jessica uses her physicality to manipulate people and get what she wants. Carrie-Anne Moss is like this power shark lawyer who says, if I knew Kilgrave, I would want him to be working for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's this
that,
abuse cycle.
Yeah, it's interesting that Kilgrave seemingly sent this dialysis machine to that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming that that's who sent. Like,
I'm assuming. I don't think that it was specified, but I agree with you. That was my inclination, was that he had actually sent it to them. Why?
He paid for it.
Or was it the surgeon?
The surgeon licensed it because
Yes.
you can't just license medical equipment.
Right.
So he had the surgeon license it for his use.
Just like the surgeon forged his death certificate.
Yes.
It's an interesting point because it almost makes it seem, and not to say that this is at all a good person, but that he's like.
No, this was for
that
was for Jessica.
This is the
that was for
opposite of a
Jessica
good
to
person.
find that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was 100%. Oh,
I
yes.
think so.
I think it's a little bit that, but also in the comic book universe, there are some portrayals of Kilgrave where he has this kind of twisted sense of honor. Where like if he says he's going to do something, so like if he says like if he had said like give me your kidneys, I'll make sure you don't die. Like even though he is making a guy get his kidneys cut out of him and put into Kilgrave, because he made that promise, he has this kind of twisted sense of honor. And it's kind of this weird thing with Kilgrave, which makes him a really complicated character. Because originally it wasn't this way, but in like more modern iterations, he kind of becomes a tragic character only in that he never knows if people are doing anything genuinely for him.
Yeah.
Because he
legit.
He can never tell because he can't turn the power off. He never knows if anyone legitimately is doing something for him or they're just doing it. And ever since he was a kid, or since he fell into the vat of purple ooze, which is in the comic books, like he never knows what people are doing and what their motivations are because he can only control them and have them do what he wants. So like Kilgrave has this weird. He is strictly evil. He is an evil, monstrous guy. But that does not mean that there aren't sympathetic points to this character.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to Wilson Fisk. Which is very similar to all the best bad guys are guys that you're like, oh, in another world, this guy could be a good guy.
Yeah.
It's like with Fisk and Daredevil.
Fisk and Daredevil are the same side of or different sides of the same coin.
Sympathizing with him, despite being able to sympathize with him so much, he was still just as monstrous and made you feel that much more scared of what he could do. And so far, because Kilgrave has a little bit of he has a power unlike Fisk really does.
Yeah.
Seeing it presented in this way as opposed to just straight up in your face is a lot more powerful, and I'm happy that they're not just going, well, it worked for Fisk, so let's just do it for Kilgrave too.
So running low on time, unfortunately, because we had a lot to talk about, but I want to just like mention some other things that were going on in this episode. Trish Walker. Patricia Walker,
Hellcat.
Also known as
Patty
AKA Hellcat.
Where's her red hair? That's my disappointment.
Well, and especially because they and I understand why it's not Carol Danvers, because they made the point of Carol's going to get her own movie. But then they made her blonde, and I was like, but she looks like Carol.
Well, let's start with Trish and Captain Marvel. Or, I guess she was Miss Marvel at the time, but let's use this as a transition to talk about the comic book as Alias.
Yes.
And in its comparison here, what we're seeing so far, because Trish Walker did replace.
She definitely.
Anyone familiar, if you haven't read the book, but anyone who's familiar with Carol Danvers, who's going to be Captain Marvel in a few years, is a major part of the book. She drives forward Jessica's relationships and is her best friend.
She's also trying to hook her up with Scott Lang.
She does.
Eventually she hooks up with Scott Lang. So
I need this book in my life.
So we can look forward to Paul Rudd making an appearance.
No, we can't.
Man!
I can't. Shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up.
the Alias comics, they're so great.
They're really good.
But Trish is a perfect they
She's a
found
great
way
replacement.
to
She's
access a character
Absolutely.
who has just enough familiarity, I think, for comic book fans, and they're giving her her own book later this year as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Solo series. That sounds amazing.
Yeah,
but
the Hellcat
we don't have time. We don't have time.
No.
But so the book, the comparisons with the book, the opening scene.
It was the same. It was so good.
I don't know if it was the same set up exactly or dialogue, but
Yeah.
it was visually identical.
I was just rereading this on the plane because I just flew back to LA from Oklahoma today, and I was just rereading this on the plane, and that opening scene. Even the dialogue was almost identical leading up to her like throwing him through the window, though I would have loved to have the subsequent scene with the cops being like, do you just always throw people through windows? And she's like, I wasn't aiming.
Yeah. it was fantastic. Like some departures, like Jessica Jones in the comic book universe was actually a member of the Avengers.
Yes.
She was there fighting toe to toe with Captain America and the Scarlet Witch and the Hulk. She was a member of that team.
Yeah.
But you never felt like she belonged
Was
as a
she
part
actually?
of that team.
I don't know that she was actually a member at the time.
She was
right.
she was a member.
Because there was a whole thing where she like attacked the Scarlet Witch under the Purple Man's influence.
Yes.
But she wasn't. She was offered.
Maybe she was offered, but she didn't take
Yeah.
it. But she was with the Avengers for a long period of time, and there's like a picture on her desk of her like hanging out with Captain America and like Thor and all of that.
Her name was Jewel.
Jewel, yeah.
And she had a shiny silver costume.
Yeah, like white and like it looked like a bathing suit, white and
And
purple.
let's
hair.
let's hold off on her the origin story that we get in the comics, because I think in case any of it carries over, I don't want to give spoilers.
And I feel like it will.
I think it probably will too.
Well, we'll get more from her within the next couple episodes, I figure.
Yeah.
But to know that that's a big part of her history is that she carries a lot of guilt around with her because she was manipulated over a very long period of time by Kilgrave, and that she was made to do a lot of things by Kilgrave. And so a big part of her character is not only is she suffering from being mind controlled and having that PTSD, but her character has a lot of guilt, and she carries that guilt with her wherever she goes.
Yeah. The emotional arc of Alias is absolutely alive in Jessica Jones.
I agree completely.
Great summation.
Yeah, tonally very much the same. I think we're going to get more bits and pieces in terms of her origin story, like specifically, from the older comics and from the Alias series as well, as we move forward into the next few episodes.
Yeah. And in the interest of time, rather than go into predictions, I just want to get everyone's final thoughts, which can be a prediction, but whatever you're thinking, just as we wrap up, starting at the far end. Jesse Klein.
Final thoughts, guys. The Marvel's just. It's such a good time to be a nerd. Like, congratulations, all of you. Like, we're doing great.
I am stoked to see where they're going with Trisha's character, because that scene where she was sparring with the guy and
Krav Maga.
doing the Krav Maga in the last scene.
They showed like the bruises.
Yeah,
on her arm.
exactly.
Probably
She
cover
is-
that up.
They're gonna do it.
Yeah, she is working up to first class badass status.
Yeah.
I feel.
Your eyes were in the back of your head when you said, "They're gonna do it." So it's pretty hilarious.
Oh, I didn't think they'd actually make her Hellcat.
Well, that's
Yeah.
one of my just as a general statement, especially after when we said this back in the Daredevil series, especially after that movie, and just in general, did you ever think growing up we would get not just a Daredevil series, but a Jessica Jones series, a Luke Cage series, an Iron Fist series, and then a Defenders series? Thank the maker. I'm so excited to see where this goes, and we're going to be in hell for the next couple of weeks while we wait and go 2 episodes by 2 episodes.
Like, I feel like anything's on the table.
Anything is possible.
It is at this point. It really, if there is an audience that is interested in a topic,
And Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
if there is an audience that is interested in a show,
Yeah.
there is a way to get it made, and
Yep.
Netflix has just with this show has truly, I think, let that show, because
Yep.
no one needed Jessica Jones on TV. No one. I don't think anyone asked for Jessica Jones on television.
Yeah.
But Netflix said, here is good content.
Yep.
Here is a good story that we can tell with our characters. We can take Daredevil's world, and while it doesn't feel what's brilliant about this show so far is it doesn't feel the same as Daredevil. Not in the slightest bit. but
It really
is
doesn't.
perfect for that. It is its own show entirely.
If he showed up, you'd 100% believe it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, if he showed up, you'd believe it. But it doesn't lean on Daredevil. It doesn't need to be Daredevil. It's his own thing, and that is what is beautiful about it.
Time will tell.
Yes.
And so with that, guys, we will be back this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to recap episodes 3 and 4. Once again, 3 and 4, Wednesday, the 25th at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, Jesse Klein, where can everyone keep up with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at JessKlein1. That's JessKlein, the number 1. You can see comedy videos and stuff like that with my teams Haymaker, DJ Fawcett, and Cascade Up.
And I am Emma Fife. You can follow me all over the internet at Emma Fife. If you follow me on Twitter, you will know everything I'm doing in my life because I tweet a lot.
It really does. I'm Soapbox Mark. You can follow me on Twitter at Soapbox Mark. Just did an episode of Jedi Alliance on our Popcorn Talk Network with Bruce Green from Funhouse and John Roca from the Far Far Away podcast. We talked about Star Wars Battlefront. It was a hell of a time. Go and watch it. I can't wait for episode 3 and 4.
And you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at @ZachWilson, ThatZachWilson, and a bunch of shows here at AfterBuzz, including Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Jesse Klein on Tuesdays, and a whole bunch more that I don't have time to list. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm Zach Wilson, and thanks for geeking out with us.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
Jessica!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.